Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that's up to this, that, and other vague things to fill this conversation. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings, or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
No, papa.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and
I made myself laugh. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Do you need time? Do you need time to finish?
No, I was thinking about how awful that line was, and I was going to use it as no, papa.
Yes. I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and I'm a banana, and he's just another banana. Two bananas. Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy!
And each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. Half the people here think he's crazy. The other half think he's a rock star. Fortunately, I'm one of the latter. It's Ian Whittington, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Hey. Good to have you back, Ian. Welcome to the show. Picked a great week for you to hang out with us and talk about movies.
Didn't we just?
So it's interesting. We've got a couple interesting things going on. Number one, we just picked a Netflix movie out of thin air called Interceptor. That's just all the rage right now that we're going to talk about.
I got 40 minutes into this movie and I was like, why did he pick this? He's quite distinguished.
You know, I almost assigned the Cronenberg movie, and then I was like, neither Andrew or I are big fans of like body horror and that kind of stuff, and nobody wants to hear us talk about that movie. So what else is out there? And speaking of what else is out there, we're also going to go back in time a little bit. This came out a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Chippendale Rescue Rangers on Disney Plus is getting a ton of buzz. Lots of people talking about it, so we did want to do a review of that, kind of get your thoughts on that as well. We'll do a best ever challenge, best ever movies that combine live action with animation in honor of Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Of course, we'll do some buried treasure as well. But if you guys are ready, we'll get right into it.
Oh, let's do it.
Guys, let's talk about Interceptor. An Army lieutenant uses her years of tactical training to save humanity from 16 nuclear missiles launched at the U.S. as a violent coordinated attack simultaneously threatens her remote missile interceptor station. This is on Netflix. It comes to us via... I don't know. No, I think I do.
Actually, the one of the co-writers of this movie, his name is Stuart Beatty, and the only thing I knew him from is he wrote one of my favorite movies of all time, Collateral, with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise. But it was also co-written by the director Matt Riley, who we know from nothing.
Matt Riley writes novels about this kind of stuff, and I think is now turning his own novels into movies. Elsa Pataki, who plays the lead in this movie, is married to Chris Hemsworth, and so he produced this movie and kind of helped get this off the ground, and
Things
probably has lots to do with certain possible cameos. Kind of make a little bit more sense now. Let's talk about Interceptor, guys. Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Ian, you get to start.
Oh, high side have loved it.
I get it.
It's okay. Like I am not gonna say I didn't like it. I definitely didn't not did like it. It is low side of okay.
Okay. Okay. Andrew, what about you?
I hated it, and I hate you for making me watch it.
The hate is so strong, it is carried over. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I listen. There are just times in a moviegoer's life where you're just like, this may be one of the most terrible things I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
how am I having so much fun?
Yes!
I like how
Oh, I'm so happy for you
I was
guys.
about to fight you. Aaron, I was about to fight you on that point, but no, I'm right there with you.
Listen, I'm gonna go with low side of liked it. I know
Is this
that's
an
crazy. I know
MST3K type
that's
of like if
crazy.
they did an MST3K
Yes.
version of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is, and I hesitate to use the phrase "so bad it's good." I hesitate to use that
Oh, no,
because
it's not. It's
I
different.
honestly think there are reasons I come away being entertained. I do think there are reasons I come away being entertained. They are not some of the reasons I come away going, "What in the world is going on here?" Like some of the acting, some of the dialogue, some of those things. But there are reasons I come away being entertained. So I'm going to let it stretch into the low side of liked it. That's probably ridiculous. But listen, when I got done, I was like, kind of glad I watched that. I had fun. My wife and I got to laugh. My wife and I would just look at each other and just like, did they really just say that? Did they really just do that?
See, I think you watched it under the perfect scenario. Then
Correct.
I could
Correct.
imagine watching this with somebody and then having somebody to riff off of it with, and that's riff is not a a plug of the other thing
Riff
they
tracks.
do. Riff tracks.
Yeah.
But if they were to I watched this by myself. Ian, I don't know how you watch this. If you watch this,
Watch it on my own, so just call me a lunatic.
Okay. Yeah. Because I didn't have anybody, honestly. Like I was like into this meeting, like, okay, we got to get close to being done, and then I like moved my mouse because I was watching it on my computer, and I had 45 minutes left, and that's when I got really mad at Aaron. That's when I really got, because I was thinking,
amazing.
is he picking this because I didn't know about the Elsa Hemsworth connection? So that's why I was like, wait, did he pick this because he thought Chris was like a bigger character in this movie?
I thought it was an Extraction sequel. I didn't know what was going on. Was that what that movie was called? Extraction?
I was waiting for a backdoor sequel tie-in to Extraction where he was going to burst in through the doors and save the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about the fun cheese of this movie that I missed out on.
Ian, why don't you kick us off? What are you said you were entertained as well. So
you're not entertained.
I still put this into okay. I couldn't bring myself into liked it because I absolutely will never watch this movie again. And I really don't like using the sentence badly acted, but it has some of the worst line delivery and acting that I have ever seen. Like it is so like CD movie levels of like find it in a DVD basket in Best Buy somewhere.
It is like early era faith-based films where they had non-actors like doing cheesy,
I want to see some
ridiculous
of these faith-based films. But it's sometimes characters will say a line, and the only way you can get away with them saying the line is if someone else in the room rolls their eyes and says, "Oh, I can't believe you're being so cheesy." None of that happens in this movie. They stick the landing. They just keep going. They're just like, "You are a bad person," and it's just like, move on to the next thing.
Aaron, because I didn't know this about I already forgot his name and I apologize. Michael Riley or Matthew Riley.
Yeah.
You said that he was a writer for like novels and stuff like that.
I believe so.
Well, there's a huge difference between writing a novel and then writing, a screenplay, because I think what he did is he's like, well, I'm just going to turn all of my inner monologue and narration into dialogue for these characters. And whenever you do that, you're making the character say, it's like, I could see them thinking that, but having them say it out loud is kind of ridiculous. And it
took me right back to my uni days where me and my housemate would there was like this terrible pizza place right around the corner from us, and you could get this huge pizza it was like £3. It was so cheap. And we would deliberately pick the worst movie, the worst action movie we could find that neither of us had ever heard of, and it would just be, it wouldn't even have like Nick Cage or Liam Neeson in it. It would be
Oh, that's too
completely
good.
unheard of, too good.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the kind of film that we would watch, and we would have such a good time with it. And yeah, it's terrible, but the action isn't bad. The action is fine. There's some like shocking techniques that they use. It just reminded me of an Under Siege film, where it's all about throwing a hammer in someone's eye.
Oh, this has Seagal written all over it.
It really does, and I kind of miss that. It's so rare to see those movies anymore.
You can, if you want one of those movies that's actually good, like, and not like, entertaining in the way Ian and I are kind of, winking at this movie a little bit.
Yeah.
This is like the terrible version of something like Cop Shop, right? Like Cop Shop
is great. Yes.
It's a great
Cop Shop
movie.
is really good.
But it's kind of this kind of thing, right? Like
100%.
where,
somebody gave a low budget, like a B grade director, an A grade movie's budget.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't know how to translate that money into anything else besides,
I'm also a sucker for single location movies, which this largely is.
It's real time. This takes place in real time. Yeah.
It's so great. It's so great that it does that. And it's Panic Room but at sea and with nukes. And I don't know what more I could want.
Well, since we're
other
talking
than
about
some actors.
I will tell you the reason I don't say it's so bad it's good. I really genuinely think this story is actually interesting. I genuinely think, like, if you took the skeleton of this idea, this concept, and even the execution of the plot, like the basic plot of this, and you actually write good dialogue.
And you have somebody like Charlize Theron playing
yes, perfect. I think this would be an incredible movie. I think the story is actually good and interesting. And the way things happen, I will say this, as bad as the dialogue is, as bad as some of the acting is, I still was like, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, I wonder, like, how, I mean, I knew what was going to happen. I just mean, like, how it's going to happen. Like, I was engaged in the story, in the plot.
I didn't bank on how quickly they were going to get into the room.
Yes,
and then get out of the room,
nice
and then get
turn.
back into it again.
Yes,
like, we've still got an hour left.
Yeah, speaking of which, that's a little bit spoilery. I'll just say this. No, we are not going to worry about spoiling this movie.
Yeah, okay,
Listen, like, I mean, there may be
they win.
There may be 5 other people that have seen it other than us. So, like, it's like,
you know who those people
cares.
were? The editors.
The Hemsworth family. It's just the
Hemsworth family and the editors.
Yeah. My goodness.
This is a perfect example of welcome to Netflix, you're greenlit.
Oh, it 100% is. Or, hey, I will only do Extraction 2 if you let me make this movie with my wife.
Sure.
Is exactly what happened to get this movie made.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
It's fun when you can pinpoint the exact second that a movie loses you. And it lost me so quickly because it's when everything starts to go wrong and somebody says, is this a prank? This is a drill. And your general man says, if this was real, we would get a phone call from NATO. And I just went, ring, ring, at the same time as the phone started. I was like, here we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Jen did the same thing. My wife did the same thing. As soon as that line was delivered, she went, ring, ring.
Ring, ring.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So good.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing when my wife becomes hyper aware of how cheesy and terrible a movie is, because she will look at me, she'll be like, this is really bad, right? Yes.
This isn't me being ignorant. This is a bad movie.
This is really cheesy stuff, right? I'm like, yes, it really is.
It's one of the aspects of this movie, and I could say it's like one of the main driving forces of the movie. I don't know if it's I'll say that it has to deal with women in the military and sexual harassment and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just the way the bad acting. I don't know if that was the cause, but part of it felt insulting, and that's coming from a straight white man. But that's like it doesn't feel like it felt like it was written by a straight white man trying to be woke, if that's not too derogatory a term.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. There is something that can happen when it doesn't feel nuanced enough to really deliver the message that it wants to deliver.
It's
totally
like, hey
understand what
guys,
you're saying.
this movie's an ally, just so you know.
Right.
You
And
know,
both things can be true. The movie can botch that, and also it can still be very, very important that we take it seriously and understand the like both of those things can be true.
Ah, damn, we lost Aaron again. Here comes their 10 seconds.
I just said
I think he's back.
Exactly what you're saying. Yes.
Yep. Aaron's back. Okay. You want to go ahead and...
Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I understand exactly what you would mean by that, Andrew. I think that's definitely there as well. I do have another positive in the pro column that I want to throw out there. You mentioned the action's not all that bad. It's also kind of visually interesting at times. You know, do you guys did Elsa do that like American Ninja Warrior stuff, like that, like one-armed, like
yes,
it looked like she really did.
It looks like she really did.
Yeah.
Like it's obvious she was green screened over something, but like the physical action of her doing that looked real. Like it looks like she was cropped from actually doing it, and they just put it in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she did that, and I mean, her and Chris are gonna have like, you know, the next like superhuman children, you know. So.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
Beautiful children. Andrew, do you hate it too much to talk about it more? Or do you have anything else you want to say?
What did you guys think about? And I always forget his name. It's Luke Bracey. I remember him from Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah, he was the bully, but then he became Andrew Garfield's friend in Hacksaw Ridge. So he's the villain in this movie.
These movies they get notched up another level when you have a really, really, really great bad guy, proper scary, intimidating villain, which this movie does not have.
No, like it felt like he was painfully trying to deliver his lines as a villain, as opposed to just being a well, fleshed out character.
And it kind of links back to what you said in the middle of the movie when he has the almost defending her as a soldier and like drawing a light on what the army did to her and saying, we're actually the good guys here and you shouldn't back the army. That, like, it felt, I don't really know what he was going for there. Like, it was such an overreach of what the bad guy was going for and what the movie was trying to do. It felt, we're going to have a speech in the middle here and it's not really going to make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'm done.
That's all you've got to say.
Yeah.
I don't think I can adequately express. We've mentioned it, but I just want to really hold the nail into the wood and hammer it home. I don't think we can adequately express how terrible the dialogue is in this movie.
Yeah.
Like how cheesy, how over the top, how predictable, like everything about this dialogue is terrible.
Your eyes will roll into the back of your stomach. They will go so far down, you will lose them. And it's delivered so sincerely. That's
the thing. Everybody is selling it, man.
So sincere.
Yes.
She really believes it. It's like, F you. Just like, that's all you've got to say? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, there was one dialogue. I forget what it was. It was so bad, but it was her delivering, like, he says something and then she looks at him and she delivers this line of defiance, and the words that she was saying, it was so gut-wrenchingly terrible. I think I blacked it out, and that's why I can't remember it.
And it's
never open this door.
It's not just our leads. I mean, every character that comes into this thing is so over the top, has such the stupidest things to say. The whole presidential council was a joke. Like,
we got a game theorist here.
That's right, the game theory guy. He's like,
14%.
I don't like your chances at 14%. And then
later on,
at the end, he's like,
14%. How about that?
Guys, how about that?
Damned.
Do you think, like, after those actors delivered those lines, like, some of them, they just walked away going, I just need to get my SAG card. I just need to get my SAG
No,
card.
no. I just wonder in some of these situations, like if the direction is just like, nope,
And
not cheesy enough. Nope, not dumb
Maybe.
enough.
Oh,
Or
you
there's
think
just no
that? Do you think
direction
like
at all.
on set they're told to lean into it?
Yeah,
I
like
don't
like
think so.
I don't
I
know.
don't think it
don't-
went far enough.
But I don't. No. You're right. If the movie is trying to be over the top and cheesy, it didn't go far enough. But
No.
if the director thinks that is correct, like that level is correct, and he's not getting it,
Yeah.
like I just wonder if, because I learned a long time ago, you can blame actors for their performances and say they have bad performances. That is a very small part of the puzzle. They don't get to choose which
100%.
takes go in the movie.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't, they have to do extra takes for directors who don't like the ones that maybe would have been better. Like,
Unless you're Clint
so
Eastwood.
the director has a lot of say in that. And so I just wonder when it's down the line like this, like you would think even like randomly they would stumble on one good actor, right?
Statistically, it should have been
Not.
It's so
I mean, Chris
consistent across the
Hemsworth wasn't
board.
bad for his 4 lines.
I mean, I was just constantly waiting for when is Chris gonna like do something? Like, there's a reason he's in this movie. Like, he's gonna swoop in
Yeah.
at the end and he's gonna save the day. But
Nope.
one of my favorite deliveries was when the man, I can't remember his name, but he puts the scuba gear on and he just says, "I don't think this is what heroes look like." And she just like so sincerely
I
says,
think it's
"No.
exactly.
"That is exactly what heroes look like." Oh no!
Raoul Shaw was his name,
Yeah,
the character's name, and then of course Beaver.
Beaver.
Beaver,
I was like,
man.
He's so southern. There's no way he's the bad guy. No.
No, everything's on the surface
He's
here,
just a
buddy.
stereotype. This
Everything's on the surface. They named
all
the
text.
character Beaver, Ian.
Yeah.
They named the character Beaver. Like
There's
everything.
no subtext here.
There
It
is
just
no
text.
subtext. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it sometimes, but like there's ways that movies can be terrible and entertaining at the same time. And like I said, I don't like the so bad it's good kind of idea. But yeah, it was I was
watchable.
interested. Yeah, my wife and I had laughs. We had laughs, we had fun, and I was kind of interested in this whole idea of the Interceptor, this idea of
I wonder how firmly this is like, or how close to reality this is. Like, are there only 2?
It can't be. For it to have made it to a film, it cannot be just the 2 places. It can't.
Right.
That has
right.
to be complete fiction.
We find out
It's
it is
one.
not only the 2 places, they actually named the actual 2 places in this movie.
The coordinates are somewhere actually on screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, all the budget of this movie totally went to, checking out, fact checking and stuff like that. They spent so much money actually getting the real coordinates that they had to settle for everything else.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My final thoughts: there is no post-credit scene, as well as no papa.
There is a mid-credit scene. So
Is there?
Yeah, and I always know this on Netflix because if it doesn't send you right to the next thing, there's something coming. And so like I waited. It's just Hemsworth.
Was it that Russian
spoil it.
captain popping his head back up again to give an overly infectious salute?
No. It was Slacker Hemsworth hanging out on a lazy boy in his store. So
Of course it was.
yeah.
Of course it
The
was.
guys, we're not closed yet.
Ian, any final words on Interceptor?
Of the 2 movies today, if on the Chris Hemsworth thing, if you told me one of them would have a really, really strange cameo, I didn't guess it was Interceptor that would win.
It's a fair point. That's a very fair point. I in no good conscience can I recommend this movie. I will just say if you happen to watch it, you might find some entertainment, especially if you watch it with a good friend and you can both roll your eyes together at
Get a
some of the line
$5
delivery.
pizza.
Yeah, that's right.
100%. I haven't spoken to him in 10 years, but I'm going to message him and say, dude, you need to stop. You need to watch this movie.
Dude, so you need to watch this movie.
That is Interceptor on Netflix. Let's move on. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers on Disney Plus. Decades since their successful television series was canceled, Chip has succumbed to a life of suburban domesticity as an insurance salesman. Dale, meanwhile, has had CGI surgery and works the nostalgia convention circuit, desperate to relive his glory days. When a former castmate mysteriously disappears, Chip and Dale must repair their broken friendship and take on their Rescue Rangers detective personas once again to save their friend's life. Yeah, this one getting a lot of buzz right now. People enjoying it. Just kind of popped on Disney Plus one day, and then people were like, have you seen this thing? Because it's kind of funny. That shouldn't be a surprise, considering you've got John Mulaney and Andy Samberg voicing Chip and Dale. You've also got Seth Rogen in there, some other...
Will Arnett, David Haysbert.
You've got a lot of names in there, and you've also got a lot of cameos in there. What did you guys think about this? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, kick us off on this one.
High side, I liked it.
High side, I liked it.
Close to really liked it. Somewhere in between.
Ian, what about you? Like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I liked it.
Nice. I'm on the high side of liked it as well. Not quite kicking over into loved it, but I really did enjoy this. And in this case, enjoyed it for all the reasons that the filmmakers probably intended me to enjoy it for.
Like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it a little bit. Andrew, why don't you go first?
Well, I think that Warner Brothers and Disney must have made a pact whenever like Who Framed Roger Rabbit was coming into fruition. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll let you do a movie where you can use some of our characters, but somewhere down the line we'll have a movie of our own where we can use some of your characters.
Mm-hmm.
They finally called that in,
and they finally called. Yeah, they finally used that card.
You mean they called in that chip? Is that what you're trying to say?
I was, you know how close I was to saying that, and I had to back off because I was like, oh no, that's a Dicer thing.
Don't do it.
But no, it felt.
Let him have his moment.
Let him do it.
Yeah. I felt so much of this movie was like an homage to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but at the same time, this movie kind of feels like its own because there's a level of meta-ness to this that isn't portrayed in like something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like the self-awareness to this is pretty good, and I think that that's the best way to do a movie like this. It's going to be funny for all ages. I think kids and adults are going to enjoy this. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, there's a lot I could talk about in the liked it column, but I think primarily because there's this idea of like a Where's Waldo-ness to a movie like this, where it's like, oh, look at all the stuff you can spot in the background. And honestly, I've never seen a movie this
busy,
rife with references of all kinds from all types of animation.
Ugly Sonic.
I listen.
The best.
I just in those jokes are great in everything. But overall, I also really enjoyed this because I think the chemistry works between John Mulaney and Andy Samberg so well that I'm just having a blast hanging out with them. You take away all those background whatnots and whatever, and I think I'm still having fun. Like, I just think it's funny and well written and really, really fun. Ian, what about you?
Oh, go ahead.
I've never watched Rescue Rangers, and a lot of the properties were lost on me. So I think I'm gonna lose that element of fun with it. But I think it still speaks volumes to the film that I had a good time without any of that context. It still explained the premise, still told me who they were. It got me into it. Acknowledging that the TV show exists in universe, and that's what this is about. I think you're right. It's the only way to make a movie like this without it feeling like a cash-in where you have to get them to do a rap, which is just beautiful. Such a great moment.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't think it does work without all of the references, because as somebody that isn't a fan, that's what kind of kept me going. I was looking for the next like kind of tongue-in-cheek thing. What it reminded me of is I feel like this is what the Shrek movies were going for, but this did it well. Like, because Shrek has got all kinds of those fairy tale references.
Interesting, yeah.
And this was so much better. It puts it in a fairy tale universe where they all live side by side, but it just delivers on it so much better.
Yeah, and not only that, the other great thing about it is it takes its concept seriously, even in a comedy movie. So like there are plenty of times when movies are silly and over the top and feel like they don't quite need to take seriously like the rules of the universe.
Yeah.
This thinks through like everything. There are so many moments where I'm like, oh yeah, because the relative height difference is so much. Like this would have to be this way. Like
the cars are modified.
The cars are modified. How they have tiny apartments for the tiny cartoon characters, and like I thought that was really well thought out, and I love it when a movie takes its own rules seriously, and I think this movie really does that.
Yeah.
The bootlegging concept is so good.
Oh, so good.
So good.
So good. Clever.
I also love the fact that we get a visual representation of how Chip and Dale have gone their separate ways, with Dale getting this surgery, and it's like you get a visual, like even like you can feel this disjointedness with them throughout the entire movie. And I think it's good to have it's difficult enough to have good chemistry with somebody to make it seem like it work. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to have good chemistry to make it feel like it doesn't work, because you can feel like, these guys, like it can be uncomfortable intentionally between them, but it's still golden, which I'll watch John Mulaney or Andy Samberg do anything pretty much. So going into this, I don't know if it's the fact that I just had really low expectations, because I watched it when it came out like a couple weeks ago, just for the simple fact that I grew up kind of watching the show. And I don't know if it was just super low expectations, but from the reaction I've been seeing online, like people are like, no, this is actually a pretty fun and funny movie.
Let's at the risk of possibly spoiling some moments, and if you don't want to know specific moments that we liked or whatever, you can certainly fast forward, because we're not going to do a SIF spoil on this. But it is that kind of movie where I do want to talk about some of your favorite parts. Let's start with favorite references, because there are so many of them. What were
Ugly Sonic? Easy. Ugly Sonic is that
was less of a reference and more of a character. Like that was a plot point.
Yeah, but
it
was beautiful.
It was great.
What a beautiful way to give that character second life. Just give it some
funny
redemption.
Because it wasn't until like a couple weeks ago, Aaron, you hadn't seen like the original design for
Isn't
Sonic.
That funny?
And then I sent Aaron a picture. Like I texted him like on the show. We were like
week. Yeah,
it was like the last week.
Yeah.
So like I texted like. I was like, yeah, this is the original design for Sonic. And oh yeah, I'm gonna have nightmares. And then they zoom in on his teeth, and it's just
it's so great but then even that it's a little bit of like I think I could be reading way too much into this, but a little mini commentary into like how we bully actors for like, their appearance and stuff, and we tore Ugly Sonic apart completely, and to think that that was an actual thing, a person that got recast because of how they look. I was like, that's not too far from what could actually happen. And he actually gets to get some redemption. And man, there was a part of me that just absolutely loved that. I think my favorite overall reference was the literal Uncanny Valley. And just the lack of eye contact. It's like, no, I'm looking
directly at you down here.
I'm just nailing exactly why that period of the early aughts with like Polar Express and stuff like that. Just we were there, but we weren't quite there enough to make it watchable.
Like so we think of like the San Fernando Valley, like as a place in California, like near Hollywood and stuff. Apparently, Uncanny Valley is also a place near Hollywood.
I love it.
My favorite reference was a 3-in-1 or 4-in-1, technically, I guess, but it was let's just say it was the Seth Rogen moment. In the movie. I thought that was brilliant. That was just a brilliant way to do that. And again, you mentioned it, Andrew, but it's like I wonder if just like somebody had some goodwill, because they had to license all that stuff, right? Like there's no way. I mean, there's so much DreamWorks, there's so much Sony, there's so much Universal.
Yeah.
There's so much Warner. It's wild that they got permission just to use all this stuff.
There's Capcom, like Chun-Li has a Hollywood star.
Yeah.
Why? Who's even asking for that reference? It's amazing.
I can't place the date, but it wasn't that long ago. Maybe within a year or two, Aaron and I were having a conversation on the show. We were talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and we had a conversation like, do you think this could ever happen again? Where all the animation studios just put aside their differences just to combine and make one movie. Do we think this could ever happen again? And I think we were like on the high side of a low probability for it, you know, like I doubt this could ever happen. And here we are. I don't know how long ago Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out.
92, 93,
88.
Oh, wow. That is,
yeah. So, you know, 34-ish years, you know, since
it took a while.
That I can't, and I'm just not remembering, but I can't remember a movie like this since then.
Yeah.
But it also manages to rip off the greatest ending from a movie in 1989 with Terminator 2. Is it 1990 that came out? But the T2 style ending is so great. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up. Apparently that's an original character. I thought it was supposed to be Gumby, but I'm assuming that for plot reasons, like, oh man, I want to talk about this because it would actually help me understand the movie. So I'm going to try and dance around this without giving it away.
Okay.
So the Gumby-esque character.
Uh-huh.
Are we supposed to believe that the villain of this movie performed what he does to change, you know, characters for, you know, other areas?
Mm-hmm.
Was that originally Gumby and he went through the process?
Oh, wow.
I didn't pick up on that, but I mean, certainly
it's possible.
It's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much to.
By the way, J.K. Simmons voicing him is perfect.
Incredible. It's so good.
One of my favorite parts is that when Gadget is flying the plane, he's like, "Hey, you know how to fly a plane?" And she's like, "Yeah, apparently I'm just like my character in the show."
Do what's needed.
I mean, it's definitely like hanging a lantern, you know, like it's definitely the movie being like, yeah, we know this is, you know, a plot hole, so we're going to bring attention to it. But I thought it was funny. So
and didn't Tress McNeil, wasn't she like the original voice for Gadget? I think. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I know for a fact Dennis Haysbert was not the voice of Zipper. By the way,
no.
There are also more than just like references to cartoons and characters and that kind of stuff. There's also stuff happening in this world where there are just jokes like on like Mr. Doubtfire, starring Meryl Streep.
The background stuff. Yes,
the background stuff in this is so great. Like I remember just thinking like these background jokes like rival Simpsons. You know, Simpsons is always my like go-to. You know, always look at the signs in the background because there's going to be an incredible pun store somewhere. And this had all that kind of stuff. So
Dolby advertising for Gucci was just beautiful.
Yes. Paul Rudd's cameo was great. Ant-Man is a great joke.
So stupid.
Was the place where they were looking for all of like the alleyway that had like all of the people doing shady business with like storefronts?
Yeah.
Was that meant to be like Disney World? But it turns out that Disney World actually, because I felt like I was walking through.
They called it Main Street, and that's what they call it at Disney World as well. Yeah. So
that's got to be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I love that. That actually Disney World is very, very shady, and these magical storefronts have actually got some stuff going on behind them. And the Swedish chef that turns into like the mafia guy is so great.
Yeah, Swedish chef or is the Italian bistro owner kind of guy. So this movie didn't have just animation; it also had puppeteering.
Of course, it had everything. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it was wild, man. Transformers were in there.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph was in there.
I don't think I remember seeing Wreck-It Ralph.
Well,
There was so much going on.
I think his arm is part of the final transformation. And doesn't he say something like, "I'm gonna wreck it"? I think he does when he transforms. He even says, "I'm gonna wreck it" at the end. So,
Oh man, I missed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the Transformer.
But you could watch this movie 50 times
Yes.
and miss stuff. Like it's wild how much is in here.
You know what?
So-
Unlike Interceptor, I actually relish the idea of watching this movie again. So
nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Chippendale Rescue Rangers?
I don't think I have really any negatives. Like, I mean, the movie is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, I struggle to find anything wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ian, what about you?
I think I mean, it's a kids movie, so it's some of the they're not friends, they're friends, third act conflict cliche, get them back together is a little bit tired for me. So I was living for the references and the nods and the winks and the jokes. I didn't really care about the story and what journey they were going, and rescuing Monterey Jack Cheese.
Monterey Jack.
It's wildly close to Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping. Like the plot the plot is very close.
Technically, this is a Lonely Island movie, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it really
Akiva Schaffer directed this movie.
Yeah.
Which, did you guys notice that he was the one directing like whenever they were doing the
Yes.
You saw that too? Like they were doing the behind the scenes stuff.
Directing the episode.
You actually saw Akiva directing one of the actual episodes of Chippendale Rescue Rangers. So he was directing this movie as well as the actual show. It's
the
funny.
length of time they make them laugh at the end of the episode is so good.
How long does it go on for? Well, the worse the joke, the longer the laugh.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know about negatives either. I understand what you're saying, Ian, but like it's well constructed. It's not like I ever felt annoyed or bored with the story or the plot. I felt like it was fairly well constructed. It is tropey at times for sure. But man, there's just so much going on, and there's always another joke around the corner. Not even just a reference, another joke. So like if you're missing the references, there's a joke to keep you in. If you're missing the jokes, there's a reference to keep you in. Like it's just it's wild how much there is to pull you along in this movie. So yeah, big recommend for me. Check it out on Disney Plus.
Absolutely. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think so.
Before we head on to the best ever challenge this week, just a reminder, you can be a SIFPOP member at Patreon, patreon.com/SIFPOP. Thank you to our amazing SIFPOP members. We record bonus episodes for our members. The one this week, we talked about our favorite shows of our childhood. And certainly saw some of them referenced in this movie. So it's kind of fun to see that. So if you're interested in hearing us talk about 3 different generations of kids shows, you can check that out in the members show at Patreon, patreon.com/SIFTPOP. And thank you so much for even considering it. Really appreciate it. All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge. Best ever movies with live action and animation. I'm looking at a couple of my list and thinking they may be considered a cheat. I don't know. We'll get there.
It's tricky, isn't it?
It is kind of tricky because I stayed away from like Jurassic Park, right? Like that doesn't seem to me like live action and animation, even though there is obviously CG animation in there.
The intent.
I tried as much as possible to stay with the intent. But we'll go number 5 to number 1, and if you've got it higher on your list, feel free to try. I'll go first. My number 5 is Paddington 2.
Oh yes.
I didn't even think of the Paddington movies. Yeah, that probably would have been on my list.
This is a great movie, as referenced in the latest Nicolas Cage movie. Paddington 2 is amazing. No, this movie is just beauty and truth and heartfeltness personified, and I love it. I love the Paddington movies, and Paddington 2 is great. So that is my number 5. Ian, what do you got at number 5?
So I tried to be pretty strict with that, and I kind of didn't I kind of did it in a way where they almost acknowledged the animated characters.
Okay.
Kind of.
Sure.
I
Sure.
don't know. I don't think I completely stuck to that. But I and I've tried not to do the thing where I just pick my favorite movies. I've tried to pick the actual best, but I failed with number 5 because number 5 is The Mask. And
Mask is a great choice. I have that in my honorable mentions. Yeah.
It is personally one of my favorite movies growing up, one of my favorite childhood memories. Love it so much. I think the animated stuff that The Mask does is
It's
so
Looney Tunes.
great. It's Looney Tunes. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. Say hello to my little friend. So many great gags. All of the dancing with the police, it's hilarious. I love this movie.
Yeah. No, good choice. I had it in my honorable mentions. No shame.
Yes.
No shame. Andrew, what do you got at number 5?
I like how we all put restrictions on ourselves, but for each of us, it was a different restriction.
Nice.
My restriction is live action with 2D animation.
Oh, okay.
interesting.
As
All
opposed
right.
to so no CGI. So like Lego movie, you're not going to see on my list or anything
Okay.
like that. So
All right. Fair enough.
this one's going to get trumped. I know it is because it's one of your favorite movies. Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I'll trump that. I'll trump that. Oh, we're both going to trump it.
Mhm.
Well, we'll go on to my number 4 then. Speaking of the Lego movie, I have the Lego movie at number 4.
Hey!
Screw you, Aaron. You're wrong.
No. Honestly, I was trying to stick with like the style that you saw in Chippendale.
So was I. Yeah. Aaron is the only one who clearly doesn't care about
I think
rules.
this counts for that. I didn't think this is
100%.
stretching it at
You're-
all.
you're
And it's a little bit
100%.
it's a little bit spoilery kind of to talk about it that way, but it definitely it's a huge surprise, but it is absolutely animated in live action in the same movie. I love the Lego movie, and we've talked about it a lot. It's a lot of fun, and that final moment is so shocking, not just because it goes somewhere new, not just because
I wasn't expecting the feels.
but yeah, it's also shocking because it's like, oh, this movie is amazingly thematic and heartfelt and beautiful, and like, the whole movie you're just like, this is crazy and fun and then the weird, and then at the end you're like, oh no. So anyways, Lego movie comes in at number 4. What's your number 4, Ian?
I will be shocked if anybody has this. It's Page Master.
Oh no.
Yeah, some honorable mentions.
Yeah, man, this film hit me as a kid. I haven't seen it since, but it's still going on my list. Macaulay Culkin and
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Like, way to get like 10-year-old Ian or whatever. Like, put those two people together, like hot on Home Alone and Back to the Future, and I was all over it. And I did not expect the film to go animated. It was like he's just in the library, and then suddenly he's animated, and it's amazing. Yeah, love it.
There you go.
Worth a rewatch.
All right, it's the Page Master. I have vague memories in the back of my mind that exists, but I don't know that I've ever seen it. So
it's kind of Fantasia-y almost.
Friends, horror, fantasy, and adventure.
Scary as heck.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when they go see Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, that's so good. So good.
Yeah.
Your number 4, Andrew.
Might get trumped here, but I'm gonna go with Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Trump.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
Angela Lansbury. Oh, did somebody say Trump?
Yes.
Yeah, Ian's gonna trump it.
Oh, fine.
Sorry.
All right, this one's a little bit of a cheat, and I will replace it if you want me to. I will replace it. I'll move everything up and put something else at number 5. There's so much animation in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and it's such. Oh, okay. So I wasn't the only one that felt that way. Good.
There are two reasons that movie isn't in this list. One, because it doesn't count, and two,
because it's terrible.
Like it. Yeah, because it's terrible.
It does count. There's 2D animation, but we are going to wait till I discuss why it counts.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. Good. I'm glad. I don't feel so bad for including it in mine. But that was my number 3. Ian, what is your number 3?
I am Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely counts.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good call.
Yeah.
Love it. There is no way to talk about this movie without being a bit spoilery. It's great. It's everything. It is everywhere.
Wear your seatbelt when you watch this movie.
Absolutely. The places this goes, both literally and metaphorically, I didn't like it when I left, but after replaying the movie in my head over and over again, I really, really like it.
Yeah, we
now.
watched this
cannot
together,
wait
and
to
you were
be-
kind of down on it when we left.
Yeah, like 2/3 of the way
Wow.
in, I fell apart and just did not enjoy it, and it completely lost me. Towards the end, it was grabbing me back a bit, but also I was exhausted when I
you
watched
were. You
this
slept
movie.
a little bit.
No,
Yeah,
I was so tired.
I was hook,
Um,
line, sinker for this movie.
me too.
I think it is a movie that needs your brain switched on, and mine was not. But since after like revisiting a bit in my head, I've come to appreciate it a lot more.
Nice. That's a great choice. Yeah, I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're number 3.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Nice.
Yeah. This is the
Honorable
first time I'm
mentions.
not going to get trumped.
Yeah,
Apparently
you get to
so.
talk, Andrew. You get to talk.
Whoa. Okay. This was like a movie of my childhood. Like I watched it like once a week. As an adult watching this movie, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of adult thematical stuff that I did not pick up on. Like I may have had an unknown sexual awakening because of Jessica Rabbit. Who's to say?
Didn't we all? Didn't
Yeah.
we all?
But,
no, mine was known. Mine was known.
Yours was known. But
That and
no,
Lola Bunny.
like Lola Bunny. Yeah, okay, fine. What was I gonna say? Oh, I think that looking back now and like seeing like behind scenes, like how they actually had to film this movie, like the technical difficulties of like telling Bob Hoskin, okay, you're gonna pan your head like at this exact time.
Yeah.
Hold on to that little rabbit's neck.
Yeah, it's mind blowing to think of like the technological limitations that they had back then, and for it to look that good.
Yeah.
I think that's a cinematic achievement. This movie, on the top of it being utterly hilarious and actually a very well told and interesting story.
And Christopher Lloyd again.
Yeah, very good.
All right, on to our number 2s. My number 2 may get trumped because I know Ian has it as well. I have Mary Poppins at number 2. All right, very nice. What is your number 2, Ian?
If you've been paying attention, it's Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
That's right. By process of elimination.
Although I would love to break the game and just say that it wasn't. Love. It was a toss-up between this and Mary Poppins for me. They are both tied into the very fabric of my childhood. Watched them so many times.
Can you say the spell?
What? From Bedknobs and Broomsticks?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No,
God.
oh no, I can't.
I
Once
can't
upon
either.
a time, yes, I could have done.
Sure.
but I can't anymore.
Something. It doesn't end with mate or D, but it's something like yeah.
Oh, it is like Mate
Decorum.
Hello Boar, Hen Baney, Octonite, Gullworm, Fire, and Firefly.
Secorum Stasis D? Secorum?
Yeah, Secorum. Yeah, something Secorum.
Secorum Stasis D. Oh, but anyway.
Yeah.
Right
I was
up
just
my
curious.
alley.
I was curious if you still remembered it.
I
but,
probably
yeah.
would have opened with it.
Yeah.
But that is just to hear her say it and then them trying so desperately to get the bed to work and the idea of your bed being the TARDIS that you travel on. Yeah, that suckered Ian in so much. Love that movie to pieces.
It is Triguna Macoitus, Tricorum Satis D.
I was close.
Yeah.
I wasn't close at all, but I felt like I was in my head.
Yeah, man, I love this movie. It's so wild because my grandparents had it on VHS, and it was just one of the tapes that when I would go, hang out at my grandparents, I'd be like, throw in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and let's have a good time. Because that's a lot of fun. Good choice.
Yeah. Gotta love Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone's grandma.
Andrew, you're number 2, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's my number 1. So Trump.
Oh,
I had one movie that wasn't trumped.
Oh no!
But we can talk about it now because we'll head into our number 1s, and mine is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That was the other one that I was kind of like, is this a cheat? But I'm glad Andrew and I were on the same wavelength. It does definitely include both. They don't necessarily act
Yeah,
And
they
that's
in the
why
same
it's
way.
in my honorable
I mean,
mentions. They're not
they're
on my
not
list
on screen
because-
together like they do cuts and stuff, like when they're
Right,
talking to
right.
God up in the clouds and stuff,
Right.
or they're being chased by the
By
monster of
Yes, yes.
great.
Yeah, I love Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I've talked about my love for this movie many times before. Python is just, a transformative moment in my sense of humor growing up and seeing some of those Pythons on PBS and
yeah.
the Flying Circus, and then just watching Monty Python with my friends at overnighters for 10 years straight. It's just, and literally watching it 3 times in a row in the same night, just
awesome.
Yeah.
quoting stuff. And yeah,
It
Grail
has
is one
ceased
of those.
to be.
So good.
I wonder if I could quote the entire movie at this point.
I couldn't.
Alongside it,
You don't think you
I
could?
probably could if it was on, not
Yeah.
independently.
Yeah, not independently of the film, but maybe if it was on. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, that was my number 1, Monty Python. It was
Nice.
Andrew's number 2, and
Yes.
Ian had it in his honorable mentions. Ian, what is your number 1? We all know what it is.
God blimey, it's Perry Moppins. Yeah,
Mary Poppins.
yeah, Mary
That's
Poppins
her-
is great. What can you say about Mary Poppins? It's an absolute masterpiece. It's just a wholesome, badly accented movie, but it's
Hey.
just great. It's no, come on. No, it's just so much pure fun. So I just always remember the colors from it and just how bright and bubbly it is. And she's firm with the kids, but joyful as well. And another TARDIS in this film as well with her little handbag of goodies. Yeah, it's such a great film. Wholesome.
It is interesting. I had it number 2, and it's another staple of my childhood. And I just remember, I think the 2 things about it I remember that set it above other movies for me growing up was the magic felt so real. When they jumped in that chalk drawing, I was like, "Oh my goodness, they are in a chalk drawing!" Like
you just went and ran at your chalkboard. I was like,
Yes,
"Why didn't it work?"
It felt so real, and I think that goes into the second part of it. Was just Julie Andrews plays that role so straightforward and purposeful, and without whimsy. Like, her character doesn't have the whimsy. Her character is very British schoolmarm almost, even. Like it's very straight. And when she does smile, when she does break, it's glorious. But
Yeah.
and it's interesting to see, like the Dick Van Dyke character, like he's always trying to get her to smile, like he's trying to get her to break the whole time. Like I love that character so much, and really enjoy watching Mary Poppins. So yeah, and the songs are great. I watched the laughing song probably 4 or 5 times in a row. Just rewind the VHS, watch it again. So yeah,
mine was Chim Chimney.
I mean, Chim Chimney's great. In the Step in Time on the roof, blew me away. I was
the silhouettes.
Like, yeah. Well, just even like the dancing on the roof, and they'd lean over and somehow defy gravity, and it was like, yeah, it was.
Hey, Michael Jackson did.
Yeah, there's that Step in Time number was another one of my favorites, but yeah, I definitely love the songs of Mary Poppins as well.
Nice.
All right, Andrew. Nobody can trump you on your number 1. What do you got?
Yeah, this is where I have Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and I'm going to explain why this counts. This movie interacts with 2D animation. It's just that they're not 2D animated characters.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah, like there is like 2D animation everywhere in this, except it's just not like
because it's a comic book. It's supposed to feel like a comic book. Yeah, that's where my brain was as well.
Absolutely hilarious. It's one of like the funniest movies. It's Edgar Wright, so like his style of comedy is like right up my alley, and I think that this is like one of his most misunderstood movies. I think that if people like go into this like not knowing what to expect or like having any understanding, like it can be off-putting. I can see that because it is out there for sure, but I think Michael Cera just nails it. I think like he is Scott in this, and the 7 evil X's. It's just such a unique, fun, like story, like a bombastic telling of like how everybody
Mhm.
feels like whenever they date somebody new, like they have to compare themselves to that person's exes. Like, how do you measure up? You know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
and the music is so good. Oh, the music
Yeah.
is so good. So
Before Ian goes on for 5 minutes about how much he loves this movie, I also want to say I really enjoy it. I think there's an interesting thing as I'm looking at this category. How British is this category? Like, is there
Yes.
something about like England where you guys just like to draw cartoons with live action? Like,
Apparently so.
I mean, Scott Pilgrim was a British director, right? And then you've
Yeah.
got Paddington 2, which comes from a British property. It's very British, actually, the whole movie. Mary Poppins,
hugely.
incredibly
Monty
British. Comes
Python,
from
Bed
Monty
Knobs.
Python, Bed Knobs and
Mhm.
Broomsticks. Like, yeah, it's wild.
Well, you see, it's because we have an imagination, Aaron, and we choose to use it.
It's a good point. It's a good point. We're not known for that over here. Any thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Ian?
I've
That
seen
you
it
wanna-
twice. I heavily disliked it both times. I really can't get on board with. Oh, who's the main actor?
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera. I'm just never going to be a Michael Cera fan, and that's totally subjective. That's just me being a terrible person. I just don't like
Hey,
that type of
It's
awkward.
not illegal to be wrong. You're fine.
I don't like that. Never mind.
We had Michael Cera scheduled for an interview on Sif Pop next week. Just got a text. He
Thanks,
is no
buddy.
longer interested in coming. Thanks
Appreciate
a
it.
lot, Ian. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
We were gonna
You
we
and
were
your
gonna talk
listeners are
about
welcome.
Arrested Development.
Yeah, good.
Let's get into the honorable mentions, shall we?
I got 3.
Go for it, Andrew. What are your 3?
Mary Poppins Returns.
Sure. I like it.
I mean, I don't like it nearly as much, obviously, as the 1st
Mhm.
Mary Poppins, but
Emily Blunt is great in that movie.
I think she did the best
Perfect
like
choice.
embodiment of
Mhm.
like Mary Poppins that she
Yeah.
possibly could, because
Yeah.
she does,
Mhm.
like you said, has that sternness, but also
Mhm.
like whenever she does smile, it does feel like a reward, you know.
Mhm. Yep.
Another one is The Phantom Toll Booth. I love the book and I love the movie growing up. Great. And then a movie, I don't know if you guys ever remember seeing this, The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Oh yeah.
I
The
wish
old
I
Don
wish I were a
Knotts-
fish.
The old Don Knotts version?
The old
Yeah.
Don Knotts. I wish I were a fish.
Wait, did
Yep.
they end up updating that or not? I know they were going to update
Wait.
that with Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was going to be the incredible, and did that just never get made? This is in my
I don't
brain
remember
somewhere.
that because I was
Okay,
talking about the Don Knotts one.
yeah, the Don Knotts one I grew up with. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I didn't know they were updating it. That's cool if they ever do.
I think they were thinking about it. Maybe it just never happened. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fun stuff.
Those are my honorable mentions.
Ian, did you have any honorable mentions?
Oh, I'm amazed at how many were picked. So, yeah, Monty Python, Mrs. Doubtfire was in there. Space Jam was definitely the original Space Jam.
Mhm.
Loved growing up with that.
Great
the-
soundtrack.
The Pink Panther films. I
Sure.
didn't count because there's only a little bit of
Sure.
The credits.
and they don't really interact too much, but definitely on the list. And Osmosis Jones, which starts with actual people and then goes into animation.
Nice.
And I love that movie so much, and I love the TV show that followed it.
Amazing.
Aaron, do you have any?
Yes, I do. Enchanted. I wanted to mention Enchanted, which I
Yeah, that's
really
a good one.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Brits, wait, Winnie the Pooh is England, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah,
Christopher Robin.
Robin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Christopher Robin.
because
is a
remember
good
they had
movie.
Ewan McGregor play old Christopher Robin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stuart Little, I think, is a decent film.
Yeah.
And that has a little of both. Detective Pikachu, I liked more than most. That might be because I like Ryan Reynolds so much.
I liked it.
And Sonic the Hedgehog is also
so good.
Not ugly
really good.
Sonic.
Not ugly Sonic. But Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, there you go. Best ever movies with live action and animation. Let's finish up with our buried treasure, guys. What's that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Ian, you're the guest, so you will go last. Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
You guys know me. I love
I do know
combat
you.
sports. My family is a fight family. So I'm going to talk about a documentary about a fight that happened a couple years ago. The documentary is called One Night, and it's the story of Anthony Joshua fighting Andy Ruiz Jr.
Oh, I remember this fight, and I'm not a big fight person, but
I
it
know, but I
overlapped
mean,
with
it shocked the world, and especially the UK, with Anthony Joshua being like
huge
the
news.
prodigal son of England. So if for those of you who don't stand, I'll just lay the bare bones for you to understand. So Anthony Joshua is, at the time, he was an undefeated Adonis of like a man. Like he's 6'7", like a Greek sculpted man. I think every single one of his fights to that point, he won by knockout, every single one in his professional career. He was going to fight, I forget his name right now, but he was going to fight somebody. The person failed to 3 drug test. So, and this was his American debut for boxing. He was going to fight in Madison Square Garden. It was going to be his biggest fight ever. And then they had to cancel it. He's like, well, just find me somebody, anybody. And the person they got was somebody by the name of Andy Ruiz Jr. Now, Andy Ruiz Jr. he is the exact opposite of everything Anthony Joshua is. He is short. He is fat. He does not look like, and I'm not talking about like fat as in like fat but like fit, like you see some like heavyweights. He is a stubby, like he does not look like a fighter at all.
The impression was that he was actually out of shape and like just ill prepared to be
exactly, yeah. He's like one of these guys, like I think he even says like, before every boxing match I eat a king size Snickers just to give me that extra boost of energy, and so it's a big night for him, big night for Andy Ruiz Jr. And he ends up knocking Anthony Joshua out in the 7th round. Why am I spoiling everything for you? Because you're supposed to know everything going into this documentary. Okay. The documentary is narrated by a slew of amazing celebrities and boxers. So you have like Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas, Gregory Cooney, I think Sugar Ray Leonard is in there too. But then you also have people like Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren. They're all talking about like people who were there, and they're like, this should not have happened. I guess the best I can compare it to is either Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Buster Douglas as like the biggest upset, or Miracle on Ice is like, I think this is like this generation's version of Miracle on Ice without, any patriotic, elements to it. It's just like, this guy should not have won this fight, but he did. You can watch the documentary on YouTube. I think it's 45 minutes. It's a quick watch, regardless of whether or not you're a fight fan or not. The way they break down round by round is very, very fascinating, very entertaining. Highly recommend for everybody. So there you go. One night. DAZN puts it on.
One Night, which is available on YouTube.
Yes.
I'll go next. My wife and I actually watched the Norm Mcdonald special on Netflix. Now, if you don't know this story, Norm recently passed away, and he had a set that he was getting ready to go out and do those kind of things. And then the pandemic happened, and he wanted to make sure he got that down and recorded somewhere. He sat in front of his computer with a microphone, and in one take recorded I think it's about 70 minutes, about a 70-minute special.
Wow.
And it is at times funny. You may find it at times offensive. We definitely laughed a lot. Norm has this really interesting sense of humor. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do Norm Macdonald. Like I can't think of anybody else who does comedy like he does comedy.
There's only one.
And it was also really interesting because after the special, Netflix included a sit-down conversation between Dave Letterman, Conan O'Brien, and Adam Sandler, David Spade, and what's her name? Molly Shannon. So and Dave Chappelle. So all those 6 people I think I just mentioned talked about him and what he meant to them, and then talked about the special and kind of some of their favorite parts. And it was kind of like a really interesting little like document of comedy, to see these legends kind of talk about who Norm was and what he did. It is a cautious recommend, just again because stand-up comedy likes to go into places that that many people don't want people going into and saying things in those ways. So there are some of those jokes, but yeah, it is definitely Norm Macdonald. That is what I will say. If you like Norm Macdonald, it is definitely 70 minutes of Norm Macdonald talking into a microphone. And there's something really interesting about it because he doesn't have a crowd to play off of, and he doesn't have any kind of, feedback going on.
Yeah.
And he's still just like doing it, and it feels somehow normal. It feels it feels like the norm, I should say. So yeah, it's definitely, if you're a Norm Macdonald fan, I think you'll definitely not want to miss it. But that is on Netflix, the Norm Macdonald special.
Hey there, guys. Yeah.
Yes. So you've seen it?
Yeah. No, it's. I was gonna watch it tonight.
Nice. Ian, what about you?
This is like a super duper high recommend, and it's Love, Death and Robots season 3, which came out a few weeks ago. I adored season 1 so much. It was so fresh. The concept is that this is a series of vignettes. I think there's 9 or 10. Sorry, there was 18 in season 1, 9 in season 2, and there's 9 in season 3, or something along those lines.
I think there's 8 in season 3.
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah. No, I'm looking at 9. I think it was season 2 that had 8. Anyway, I would love more. I would have triple the amount.
Oh yeah.
And they vary anywhere from like 5 minutes long to 20-minute long vignettes done by a variety of animation studios. Think of Star Wars Visions, but good. And it's just so entertaining. And every single story seems to be so serious and hard-hitting or comical, but every single one has a theme and a message. And just to pull out a couple from this season, there's one that has
What's your favorite?
My favorite one from this one, I think it's Bad Traveling. It's
is it on the boat?
It's on the boat, yeah.
That's my favorite too.
Some moral choices have to be made, and it's only a 20-minute adventure, but the twists and turns are excellent. There is an entire zombie uprising from start to completion in 6 minutes. That is the best zombie film I think I've ever seen.
So good.
Ever. So great. There's one called Jabaro, which has so much to talk about how we treat women and how we treat them as objects, and then completely turn that on its head in the last like kind of 60 seconds. Man, it is a hard R. It is definitely adult.
Oh, yeah.
It's not something to watch with the kids, but some of the animation is indistinguishable from live action almost. It's just a great sandbox playground. There will be at least one episode in there that you like if you watch anything animated. There will be something in there that you like. So great.
This was actually my buried treasure a couple weeks ago. And Jibaro is the one that I was like, it wasn't my favorite. It's like, it's in my top, but because I think Bad Voyage is my favorite, but Jibaro is the one that stuck with me.
100%. Just the visuals.
It's one of the most visually beautiful things I've ever seen. It actually brought me to tears just how beautiful it was. The siren, and not only the visuals, but I think they did some really interesting stuff with the audio in that one too.
The visceral nature of all of that episode is
Aaron, have you seen season 3 yet?
I have. I watched all of season 3, and yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. I want to give a shout out to Mason's Rats. That was the most
Pixar of all of them. I'm not surprised. It really
the most violent Pixar I've ever seen.
No surprises here, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if Pixar were rated R, I suppose.
Yes,
But yeah, Mason's Rats I really enjoyed. And then the others you mentioned as well. Three Robots Exit Strategies I thought was also really insightful and
100%.
interesting.
Absolutely.
So,
It was like, how did they all survive?
I
It was
love
like,
I love that we got to see them again, and
Yeah.
like that's how
Yeah.
they started off this season.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
great. Kill Team Kill had the biggest laughs from me. Just
Easy.
some of the
This is one of the
moments in
funniest
that,
things I've ever seen.
hilarious. So
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah. You said, starting off, and it's interesting because I don't know how Netflix does this. And I don't know if it's random, but like I just went to, play season 3. Mine started with Jabaro. And so like
Yes,
it's
mine too.
and
Really,
so
that
it's-
was the last
And
one
that's
for
at the
me.
end. Yeah.
it's supposed to be episode 9, and I only knew that
Uh-huh.
afterwards. And I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it,
It
but
really
it kind of
doesn't,
it
but I
kind of
still want
should
to.
though. Like if you're programming, like if you have this batch of animated, there is a way to program it, the best way, in my opinion. Like that
Yeah.
might be a little bit
Flow. There's
objective
There is.
or
Like, I wouldn't-
subjective. I mean, but yeah,
I wouldn't have ended it on Night of the Mini Dead, for example. And
Right,
you wouldn't put all
yes.
of the serious ones back to back and then all of the lightweight
right. There's a
ones at the
way
end.
to program.
There is
it,
a way
right?
to do
And
it.
so it'd
Yeah.
be weird if they're doing it on random. But I don't know how else to explain why mine started with Jabaro.
That's so weird.
So,
I
yeah.
watched mine literally the second it came out at 3 a.m. Is when I started watching them all
Mhm.
on the night they dropped. And when I watched them, Jabaro was last, and the Three Robots.
That's the
Exit
correct
Strategy
order.
was the first one.
That's the order listed like on the wiki.
Yeah.
Is 3 Robots, Bad
So,
Traveling, The
when
Very
I
Pulse of
watched
the
it-
Machine. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I watched it, it was in the right order, but
Yeah.
later on they switched it for you guys,
Don't know. That's what I'm saying.
and
It's-
then now
it's
they switched
The
it back.
strangest thing, because they're not numbered either. It just has the titles.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
But I love it. I think it was probably, I need to rewatch season 1, but I think this might, as a complete season, I think this is my favorite.
Me too.
I wonder, I could be way off here. I wonder if there's something algorithmic going on where it is in a constant state of like deciding, okay, people left after this one and didn't want to watch the next one. So let's
it
put that
constantly
here, and
changes?
it's constantly
Yes.
changing based on the way people are interacting with it, so that the algorithm itself is deciding the best order to keep people around for all night.
If Netflix aren't doing that, they should.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I love it
Because
so much.
whenever you have an anthology series like this, you could dictate, to each person, not only dictating like to a generalized group, like saying like most people turn off after this episode, but like knowing like an individual person's like watching habits, they could, tailor make it for each
Mhm.
person.
Yeah, the algorithms can do many, many things. I'm not scared at all.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. So that's Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. The Norm Macdonald special also on Netflix, and One Night, which you should be able to find on YouTube. Well, we did a podcast, guys.
Well, we did.
Congratulations. I know you had it on your bucket list, and today, just now, you both got to mark that off. You finally accomplished a podcast. Well done to both of you.
Boom, never been done before.
Never been
Never.
done before. Thank you so much for joining us today on Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
No, Papa.
Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Producer Papa?
Yes, Papa.
Thanks to Ian for hanging out with us again today.
Woo!
Ian, where can people find you on the internet if they want to go see more about Mr. Whittington?
You can see me correctly pronounced. Well done, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah, find me mainly on Twitter is where I do the most talking. It's at Witsend, which is WHITTSINNED. And if you'd like to hear me and Aaron talk about Star Trek, I've groped him into Star Trek. No, I have roped him into Captain's Pod, where we talk about Strange New Worlds currently.
Yeah. Talking about Strange New Worlds. That is Captain's Pod. If you want to search that.
What did I call it?
I don't know. I think you called it Captain's Pod. Did you
think
just
I
call
called
it
it
the Captain's Pod? I don't
I
know.
may have done.
Yeah, I don't know. I do know you said Twitch. Did you mean Twitter?
Did I say Twitch?
I think you said Twitch, which is fine. I
Oh,
don't
I
know you're
definitely-
on Twitch.
I mean,
but
you can search. I'm not there yet, but watch this space, I guess. No, Twitter is what I meant.
Nice.
Oh,
Well,
by
we
the way,
appreciate you being
since
here.
you guys love Star Trek so much, the Orville started back up.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
It's definitely on my
I
to
haven't
watch
watched it
list
yet.
with about a million other shows.
They all
Uh-huh.
dropped like within a
It is
2-week
wild.
span.
It is
like, why
wild.
would you do that to me?
Like I literally have probably 40 shows that I could get back into or watch or whatever. And then I just noticed today that a Russian Doll isn't even listed on them. I'm like, I didn't even realize there was another season of Russian Doll.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to add that one too.
I have
So
good news though. One's been cancelled. What's that? Only the wolves thing that you like, Raised by Wolves, or
oh yeah, that
I
got
get this wrong every
canceled.
time, but I
Yeah.
got cancelled. So hey,
Yeah,
just take that
yeah.
off your list.
Listen, it's bad when
Yeah.
you're hoping stuff you watch gets canceled.
Oh,
That's how bad it
no.
is.
I
That's
love
how bad it is.
that show so much. It made me mad.
All right, if you want to support what goes on at Sif Pop, the website sifpop.com, or here on the podcast, you can do that at patreon.com/siftpop. It starts at $3 a month. There's some bonus episodes for some levels, some other fun perks. You may want to check that out. Just go to patreon.com/siftpop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And if you want to email us, you can do that too. feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than using a gun as a face knife. We will be back next week with more movies. I think maybe a little bit of a dinosaurs next week.
Yeah.
So we will catch you guys then.
Papa.
Bye.
Bye, Papa.
That was amazing.
All right. Thank you to our live viewers. Appreciate you hanging out and chatting. See Slab in there.
Hey, Slab.
Taking Ian off the Christmas list for his Scott Pilgrim opinions.
Facts.
Jay Bourgeois says that I almost said the transporter, not the transporter. The Interceptor is somehow the #1 movie on Netflix right now.
I get it. Yeah.
People keep misspelling Interstellar. That's why.
Oh, look, it's a Nolan movie.
This isn't right.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Yep. Bye.